computer anyway, says it's 11. So if you have not completed signing in with your name and library, please go ahead and do that so that your library gets credit for attending. Once this Zoom closes down, I have a file that says of everybody in the chat. Otherwise, I do not know that you were here unless you actually speak up in the middle of the meeting. So with that said, I want to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see materials best handling practices? Okay, good. Before we actually jump right in, there's a little bit of sad news. Crystal Howder, she is one of our newest circulation committee member. Her sister passed away Sunday. So just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. I don't really know whether she had been ill or if this was a sudden thing, but I got an email from her today. So that's a hard thing to have to go through. So anyway, moving on then to just our regular business. I have been asked by both Ron and Steve to add a few things in here. So even some of the circulation committee hasn't seen this yet because it was going back and forth at the end of last week and the beginning of this week. So the first question I want to ask everybody is this part here in yellow. We had moved it into the courier section, but do we want to also include it down here in the sending section? It's appropriate for both. Do we put it both places? Do we just put it one place? What does everybody think?
I think both places. It doesn't hurt. It's not like it's a paragraph. It's just 2 sentences, 3 sentences.
Right. That's kind of the way I am leaning.
It's pretty important too. I mean, not overstuffing bags is important, but making sure it's going the right place is maybe the most important piece.
Exactly. I agree. Okay, good. Linda, I saw you on the call. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. Because that's my only caution to anything that's in there twice is then you have to update it twice. That's not a statement that you necessarily are going to update very often, if ever. So
yes. Thank you for thinking about that, because now with the new Missouri Evergreen circulation procedure manual, or just any kind of updates that you do when we updated the CERC policy, I have to update it, send it to Ron. He takes down the old one, sends it back, lets me know when he's posted it, so I can then go in and put the link into the CERC manual, which then has to be reposted. So it's this back and forth thing, so that I appreciate one less thing of that I have to do. Okay, so looking at courier service, before we had 1, we had 2, we had 3, but here's kind of where the changes start. So we had keep account of individual outgoing items for monthly reporting. Do not count bags shipped, but each individual outgoing item, which could be several to a bag. So then this is kind of what we've been asked to add. So does it make sense? Does it read well? All of that. So this means each and every item, not bags, that leaves your library, whether it is borrowed, loaned, misdelivered, or a reciprocal return is counted. Items to be counted include MEC items, traditional ILL, freebies such as DVDs, cases, etc. Does that make sense?
The principle of it makes sense, but several of my libraries count tubs, and then they have a number that they use to say, okay, we sent 5 tubs. Tubs have an average of 20 items, therefore we've sent 100 items. I was always under the impression that MALA was fine with that kind of estimation. Does any other library estimate like that using the number of bags and bins?
We don't estimate, but I was unaware that people were physically counting. I just pull the data from Evergreen. Like, I mean, the data from Evergreen isn't always great, but it's at least as likely to be right as the people that are doing the courier at the front desk and hoping they counted everything.
Right. Well, it doesn't really say how to count it. So I guess that could be left up.
And I think that depends a lot on how you're set up. Like, are you counting a little bit at a time at your desk as you go? Or do you have a staging area? Because we have a staging area where everything of ours is in. We have shelves where they sit there, and so they do a bag for scenic or whoever, and they're putting them in there, they're counting them, they write 6 on the tally sheet. It's faster than even running a report. So that's faster for us because it's all right there. We throw them all in a box or whatever, a bag, and you just write it on the sheet. We have a log sheet and it goes in, and then you total it and you're done. So I think it depends on, I think some libraries may pack as they kind of pack slowly as things come in. If you don't have a lot of staging area. So that's probably just individualized by libraries setup.
Yeah, used to the reporting on when you reported your statistics on Mala would say a box equals this many, a tub equals this many, and they've taken that reference off. So I'm wondering if they are wanting an exact count rather than best guesstimate.
Well, and think about if you're sending boxes, a lot of us send boxes, how, all different sizes of boxes. So there is no standard.
Right. And you're going to be able to shove 20 kids books in a box,
Yes.
or maybe only 6 or 7 adult books.
Yeah, you think picture books could add up a ton in a box, whereas thick, big nonfiction isn't.
On the whole, I do like the addition because it points out that we should be counting things that are not truly items that are being sent for holds, like cases. So I think that's a really important addition.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It makes it really clear that everything should be counted somehow. And so I
Yes.
wish your workflow is going to determine how that gets done.
Well, and we were always confused about misdelivered, whether you count it or you don't count it.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you got that in there because
Mm-hmm.
it clearly states that we are supposed to count the misdelivered because it is actually using courier transiting.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions actually, and I'm with you ladies. I like that it specifies that. What if now I don't think we've gotten one of these in a long time, but sometimes we receive misdelivered items that aren't for the consortium, like they're for a neighboring town. So what if we received one of those and that particular library used zip ties? I mean, we couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, because we used to get, like, sometimes we get Joplin's books, right? And Joplin's not in our consortium, and they don't use zip ties, but back in the day, there were libraries that did for privacy or whatever. I assume we wouldn't like undo that just to find out how many. We could probably guess on that. And then my other question is, what about, I feel like our children's librarians sometimes get like STEM kits or stuff like that through the courier. Like I wouldn't even begin to know how to count that.
Well, one STEM kit is one.
It's just one thing.
Right. Right.
Okay. Not all the little things that are part of
No.
it or
No.
It's
okay.
cataloged as one item.
Right.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
And I think on the misdelivered items, if it has a bar or a zip tie on it, undo it. I think that's basically to make sure that some libraries used to do that originally just to make sure it didn't come open accidentally. I would just say undo it and count how many are in there. Same with a box. Cut the box open and count.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
Maybe that needs to be added on there.
Yeah, I like that wording though. It is nice to specify, but now it makes me want to like physically count my stuff and make sure it matches my reports.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we're okay with leaving it as is. Okay. All right, so then, we've added in, this link will take you to where you can see the most current version that you need to be using of your, labels. This link will take you where you can, if you need to report an issue, or if you need additional courier bags, other supplies, that kind of thing, that link will take you there. And then this last link is to the MALA ILL courier manual. And so for more direction on the guidelines that MALA has, it's on page 9 and 10, because I looked it up to kind of see what they actually say. But this will give you the full-blown courier manual of, I guess, all things courier. So is the committee okay with leaving those additions in? Is there anything else that needs to be added?
I love having the links right there.
Me as well. That would help my staff as we do turnover and train new people. That would be so helpful.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully these are ones that aren't going to change very often. But if it does, it's pretty simple to just change that link. So, all right, if everybody is good with that, the rest of the materials best handling, nothing else was changed. This is number 7 here is when we added in the billing piece a while back, a month or so ago. But other than that, everything else is the same. So with you all's agreement, I am going to, then it's not that the executive board necessarily will say, you can't do it this way, but I want them to be able to see it, and that will be on Thursday afternoon. So, okay, so let's stop that. Just things that have come to me over the past month. There were some questions about recording in-house use. So when you are recording your in-house use, item alerts, those little things that pop up that says, this item was missing, this item was claims returned, this item was marked damage. Those do not work in record in-house use. They don't pop up, and I'm not sure why not. It's something that I want to talk to Equinox about. I don't see why it pops up when we check things in. Why can't it pop up here? But at this moment, it does not. So sometimes you'll be recording in-house use and the item is really needs to go on hold for someplace, or it needs to be actually checked in because it's still in transit, or those kinds of things. So you can catch these items if you make sure that one of the columns that you have as you are doing record in-house use is item status. And that will pop up and say missing, lost, those things that typically come up in just your normal day-to-day work at the CERC desk. And I'm not sure. I'm going to be talking to Equinox, and perhaps there already is a bug and it just hasn't, in the whole scheme of life, it's further down the list than what. If there is a bug for this, I will send it out over the listserv so that people can add heat. I would just like to see it be an automatic thing, as opposed to, oh, you need to know that you need to have this column in there. So, okay, questions about that? Okay, all right. A second thing that came up is be careful to transit items in safe containers. And what I mean by that is your container, when it leaves your control, the item is not broken, or the container is not broken, no sharp pieces. that kind of thing. And then the other thing is no staples that aren't, staples mush down, they're supposed to be flat, but, we've had some people that, how you get to you're doing your business and didn't realize that this staple was not closed down all the way, ripped their hand. So it's just those little bitty things of just slowing down a little bit, making sure, that things are safe for the person who's going to be opening that package. Does that make sense? It's just a small thing, but if you were the one that was injured, it'd be like, huh. So, number 2, I don't know about you, but in the summer, our making new library cards kind of jumps exponentially. I don't know. I think it's just because, families are coming in and they want to get their child a new card. They want to, or they've moved from one place to another. So, patron requests for a library card at your library when a patron already has another MEC library. I just wanted to go back over what we have kind of recommended for that situation. So somebody is coming into your library. So the closest probably to me would be North Kansas City or Trails. They come in, they already have a Missouri Evergreen library account now, but now they've moved to Raymore. And so they want to come to our library. So the recommendation says a new account may be created as long as patrons do not have outstanding charges on other Missouri Evergreen accounts. If other MEC accounts are found and there are outstanding charges that exceed your library's fines or fees threshold, ask the patron to reconcile charges on their other accounts before creating a new account. So you do have some wiggle room. Somebody comes over, they've moved, say, from Scenic, from across the state over to here, they owe $5 at Scenic. We'd really like them to pay Scenic back, but for $5, Cass County is not going to prevent them from getting a Cass County card. So you do have some freedom in there. And I know there are some libraries that just say, okay, they're moving to a new place. We're going to start free with them. And I guess if you are willing to risk your material on a patron that owes, I don't know, 200, haven't we all seen $200, $300 someplace else? I guess if you are willing to risk that and your library board is willing to risk that, that would be on you. But this is kind of to give some basic guidelines on what we think might be a good, equitable way to handle that kind of situation. So questions from anyone on that?
I have a question. I think it's kind of related, but I've always been confused about this is reciprocal borrowers, Missouri Evergreen reciprocal borrower, how there's that one list of 12 libraries or whatever.
Yes.
And I don't quite understand because we are a consortium. So there was a big discussion about, I come from, I don't know, wherever you come from, Rhonda, your library to Neosho, and your card scans in my library computer and opens your account up. So isn't that the whole idea behind being in a consortium? And so this person has moved here. Let's just say they've moved here. They have an active card in the Missouri Evergreen. So can you just change their address and they keep that same? No, you wouldn't do that. No, that's not right.
Well,
but they can still check out here. Let's say they don't live here. They're here on vacation to visit grandma. And they scan your card here in my library and they can check my materials out. What's the deal?
Well, there's multiple ways to look at that in different perspectives. So one of the major things that libraries do not like about it is it's going to check out your material at your place, and it's gonna start under
My
your
rules.
rules.
Yeah.
And then when it gets time to either renew things, it's going to move to my rules, coming from Cass County. And so depending upon if you are fine free or if you're not fine free, all of a sudden somebody who is not used to getting fines could start getting fines, or vice versa. So that's one of the issues.
Okay.
So that's the downside of it. I just think a lot of the reciprocal borrowing, I think, a lot of it came into place because, like over by Scenic, there's several library systems really close together. And so while you might be living in one library district, the closest library is in a different district.
Mhm.
So those libraries individually have gone and created those reciprocal things back and forth.
And they're all Missouri Evergreen libraries?
No,
No,
I don't
okay,
think so.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Macy, am I speaking correctly there?
Yes, so we have reciprocal borrowing agreements with St. Louis County and St. Charles County, and they're not Missouri Evergreen.
Mhm.
But there's so many people. Pacific is right in the, it's on the edge of Franklin County, and there's a lot of St. Louis County patrons that use both. And it's just a way to ease the pain of having to tell them, no, you have to go to, Merrimack Valley branch to get your library card. You can't come here, even though you
Mhm.
live half a mile over the edge,
Right. Well, we have the same thing here. I've been at this library for 15 years, and from the beginning, they had reciprocal borrower with McDonald County, our southern county. We kept that going even after we joined Missouri Evergreen, so our people can, still use our library. But it's not the same as reciprocal within the consortium. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Well, and technically, any patron could walk into any library and use their card. It's a matter of staff training. And if you use self-checkout, I'm not sure what happens
Mm,
with
I can speak to that, Rhonda. With our library, any Missouri Evergreen user can come in with their card. We don't check anything, and at the self-check, it works. So they can use any Missouri Evergreen card, whether or not they're a reciprocal borrower, because our staff don't oversee that. We are completely 100% self-check. I'll also say one of the reasons, Terry, that we've done reciprocal borrowing within Missouri Evergreen is so they don't have to get another card. Because we are hub for lots of different places. So we constantly have people from Doniphan and Dexter and other local places. I don't think Dexter is a reciprocal borrowing library. But it made it easier specifically with Doniphan. We have so many patrons that go back and forth. That way they don't have to keep up with two cards. They just have this one card. And that's how they navigate that. So
very good. Yeah.
Imagine if we could all be one card that works everywhere, and that's
Yeah.
the great thing, we can consortially buy cards, share the price, everything like that. But I believe the drawback has always been that everyone would not want to go to share the same rules.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem, because other consortia have that where but everybody says, I'm gonna share the same rules.
Well, I think our funding for our libraries is so vast too. It's so diverse how we all get our money.
That
And
was gonna
maybe
be,
taxpayers are not gonna go for that.
yeah, that was gonna be my thought is if, like if our non-resident fee, which is our agreement with the city as to how we get our funding, based on whether they live inside the city limits or not, because we're city funded, not county. And so like if somebody goes on vacation to, I don't know, Kansas City, and find out they have a $10 non-resident fee and then just pay it there and just use that card at our library. That's where I see it could be problematic, besides that everyone has different rules.
Right, for sure. For sure. Okay.
I don't know if that helped you or not, Terry.
I mean, it is confusing, right? It's a little bit, and people, even patrons, don't quite understand. They think, oh, they love the consortium idea, I have a Carthage card. I'm gonna go into Neosho and check out, you know? So,
Well, and the other thing is, we have had a patron who has a Cass County card and also has another library card, and our library systems are adjacent. So he will put things on hold on the Cass County card, but he never comes into Cass County anymore.
oh boy.
So it gets problematic if, you know, who is managing that, you know,
Mhm.
managing is maybe the wrong word, but, you know, kind of monitoring, you know, then he wants to have them checked out on his Henry card instead of,
Oh
you know,
gosh, yeah.
putting the hold on the Cass County card, but then he's wanting to transfer that hold to the Henry card. I believe it's Henry County. So use
That
the
is the
code that
worst
you're
thing
going
we
to.
have. That's the worst thing we have is holds with our neighboring library
Right.
system, because they have two cards, they put things on hold, but they don't change the pickup library.
Correct.
And then they come here and they're like, where's my book? And it's like, well, you put it on hold, it's at the other library. And
Yeah.
it has always been a big problem for us.
Yes, yes.
I wonder if that short list of the reciprocal libraries within MEC I wonder if we could add people to it who didn't want to be added years ago because their fine settings had fines at the time and they no longer have fines.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
So right now it's only it's a small chunk of the MEC
Yeah.
libraries, but I wonder if more libraries would be willing to be added if their fine rules have changed and they no longer worry about a reciprocal
Yes.
borrower circumventing those rules.
Yeah, I like that.
There is a reciprocal borrowing agreement that would need to be signed. And right off the top of my head, I don't know where that lives. I could find out where it lives and if anybody was interested. And then, so once your library would sign that reciprocal agreement, then you would need to notify. I guess, I don't know if that agreement goes to Ron Eifert or if, but anyway, he is the one who would add your name to the list
Mhm.
of reciprocal borrowers. So I
Hmm.
don't know if Ron is still on the call or not.
I don't know, we were both just on the there's Harcoxy training, so I didn't see him jump over here.
Okay.
Are there settings that Equinox has to change? Aren't there some settings that they have to change if you become reciprocal with somebody?
That
Not.
that is part of the
There he is.
problem.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and there is really no good way to manage it through the software. We would have to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to make it work when not all libraries would want to participate in it. And it's one of those things of, do we spend thousands of dollars on something that, maybe only half of the libraries want, when we've got so many other things we still have to tackle? And there is nothing wrong with having reciprocal agreements with neighboring libraries. It just gets problematic when you're looking at statewide.
So Ron, do you know where that agreement form that a library would have to sign if they were interested in reciprocal borrowing? Do you know where that lives?
I have no earthly clue, because we have not done anything with those in probably 4 or 5 years,
Okay.
just because
I
we
think
found.
I found it.
Oh,
Let
yeah.
me, it's on the circulation, sorry, I've been looking, but it's on the circulation training materials page. Or, well, I don't know that it's a signature. There's no signature on it. It just says a reciprocal borrowing agreement. And that's it. There's no place for a signature. It's basically, this is what we
okay.
agreed to.
And it
Okay.
does show the last update is like 2017. So Ron's
Mhm.
right. I think that it hasn't been updated in some time.
Well, and I wonder if the two individual libraries, or whoever you're reciprocal borrowing with, would have to have some agreement as to what you're doing for fees, fines, if you would have to work out some things between yourselves.
Mhm.
That is actually outlined in there, what happens with fees.
I know I was originally on the reciprocal borrowing committee, Uh, and talks just kind of fizzled out on how that was going to be. But I think the last thing was we had decided that it was just best for each individual library to go to each library they wanted to reciprocal borrow with and do an agreement one-on-one instead of having a all-in-one thing. But I know that everything fizzled out probably about 2 years ago.
I have a question or comment. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. My understanding was once you turn that on, that it is for all libraries, and that is understanding that we don't tell our patrons that. We just say, hey, we are owning a reciprocal to, like for us, we would be reciprocal to Cedar County because we're the closest to that one. But my understanding was that once you turn that on, I mean, click a button or something like that, it turns it on for all of the libraries. But that's my understanding. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think you're right, and I think that's why the cost of configuration would be so high.
Yeah. And then I had a question for Brenda. You said that you had a lot of you had a lot of libraries like that. How did your patrons do did they have any fines going back and forth or problems with that?
So we do. Again, Donovan's the closest with us. So there are several times where a patron comes in and they cannot check out with us because if they have a fine that is actually set by Donovan and it's on a proper library card. So it does occasionally get a little bit complicated. And I would say that's, as Rhonda said, that's probably the biggest issue that we have with the reciprocal borrowing is they then have to deal with that library directly. To deal with that, I've actually had Dexter call me before and be like, hey, we've got a fine. It's technically on your card, but it's technically for us. And I was like, just take the money. I don't care about 60 cents. Just be done with it. And we move on from there. So it does get complicated and you do have to be able to talk with the other libraries that you're nearby and work with to get it all sorted out. That's definitely the most complicated thing.
And when we talked about getting new cards, giving new cards for people that owe a bill in another library, we have a hard fast rule that if our staff see it and they owe for a lost or damaged material, they have to go to the other library and settle that. If it's a fine, we don't charge fine, but if it's fines up to like $5 something, we just let it go because that's not something that we're that concerned about.
Yeah, ours is over $10. So anytime we're registering a new patron, we look to see if they have fines at any other Evergreen library. And if it's over $10, then we tell them you have to contact them to try to figure that out. But I wanted to add with the reciprocal borrowing. So I don't know. I'm new, so I'm still learning the ropes of everything. But we require everyone. If we have a reciprocal borrowing agreement with St. Louis County, and they use Polaris anyways, they have to get a library card with them. They cannot use their CNET card. So like same with Jefferson County, Crawford County, you have to get a library card with them. So you have two separate accounts. So it doesn't get confusing like that. And we're not going to take your Jefferson County library card here. We're going to use your CNET card as long as you have an account with us, which makes it much easier than you guys are discussing some things and I'm like, oh, I can't even imagine dealing with that. So.
So are you able to, so you have no way of knowing if they have run up a huge bill over with their Polaris account?
No.
Okay.
Not with St. Louis County, not at all. And I mean, we would love for St. Louis County to be added to Evergreen, but they just got Polaris this last year, so I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But no, we have no way of knowing. So unless we specifically look up You know, if they're a Jefferson County patron and a scenic patron with the reciprocal borrowing agreement, we only see their scenic account because we require them to use that card here. So unless they tell us they've got $250 that they owe to Jefferson County, we'll never know. Or if they accidentally give us the wrong card, you know, but we don't do anything with that. That's their responsibility to take care of that with Jefferson County.
Yeah, I think dealing with the reciprocal borrowers that are not Missouri Evergreen is simple. It's
Yes, yeah, that's way easier. Yes, I agree.
Do you want to throw another, since we're already talking about this, let me throw another little wrench into this that I have yet tested out. But on the Missouri Evergreen app, you can pay for your charges. And so I don't know, again, sometimes there are charges from another library on our card because of all of the, as Rhonda mentioned, the kind of mess that happens with reciprocal borrowing. So I don't know who gets that money, since it's an electronic charge. So that's just something for us to, as we talk about this, keep in mind.
Well, and I think the CERC policy does say that fines are collected by the checkout library. Lost and damaged needs to go back to the owning library, but if people get on the app and pay, I would imagine it's going to the library that account is, you know, whichever account they're going into. So that is something we might want to check in on. So thank you for that, Belinda.
Yeah, I kind of recommend if they don't want to call the library or can't get a hold of the library, that they just go pay it on the app, I'll be honest. But normally it's like 20-40 cents and then they can't check out, and
Right.
it's problematic.
Okay. I'm not a computer person. I have no idea how you would even fix that, or if it's even possible to fix that.
You know, that's why we do we run a lost and paid list so that we can send a bill to someone
Right.
to get our lost and paid items. But for fines and something like that, I have no idea how that would be possible.
There
Yeah.
may be someone who's doing it in the background. I do this currently for the MLC. All the fines that are paid via the catalog all come to a central pot, and then I run a report once every quarter and I sort it all out. So maybe someone is doing it in the background and we're just not aware of it. And they're running fines based on either the patron's library or the item library for lost materials. Maybe.
That would be a nice maybe, but I'm betting it's a no-go. All right, every one of these meetings, I come away with more things to find out. I'm just like, how does this happen? I'm not sure.
The to-do list gets bigger and bigger.
Yes, it does. I guess that's a good thing. I guess we're needed. Okay, anything else on reciprocal borrowing that I can't answer for you?
Sorry, I know that wasn't even on the agenda.
That's okay. That's okay. It falls down under that other thing we just
Good.
went through before we got there. So, okay. So D, I put on the current list for the courier label. We're still on the same one as last month, but I'm just going to keep adding it in there every month, whether we're on the same one or not. It's just one more place to make sure you're doing the right thing. And then the very last thing, I kind of wanted to have a discussion, and this might make us go too long, but what is your library's process for training new staff members? And with that, what additional resources would be helpful for our Missouri Evergreen consortium libraries to have as we are, I mean, all of us went through that beginning training, but for some of us, that was a long time ago. And, you know, as we move to different versions, things change. We try to update you on that, but what is your library's process for bringing on a new person who basically has never used Missouri Evergreen before?
I can tell you that my process since we joined in 2020, only 4 years. It's not even 4 years yet. October will be 4 years. Seems like 10, but is changed. Every year it changes. And this time it's really going to change because we're the mentor library for, well, one of the mentor libraries for Sarcoxy, and the CERC training was phenomenal that Lena Hernandez is doing. And, she's from Equinox, but it has been so eye-opening, and her, what do you call it? Like the order of events and how she is training has helped me a lot. Like, what do you start with? Do you start with patron? Do you start with items? Do you start with, what is it? I mean, every library has their own training process of our library, our procedures, our policies here for Neosho that are never going to be the same as anybody else's. But as far as Evergreen goes, I have found too that the younger generations really respond to video type training, like YouTube, let's say, training, they get it right off the bat. And so I don't know, I'd like to hear what everybody says.
I would love to see a canned module training that is video and they go step by step through it.
Me too.
That is produced by someone who knows how to train people. And it'd be either a training module where you actually train on a like almost live canned server somewhere that's,
Well, as opposed to the test server?
or like, yes, well, it could be the test server. I don't know. It's however that would work, or just a true video type, well, like the cataloging train, something that is, you're going step by step through a module. And it
Me
doesn't
too.
have to be as intense. But I think that would be wonderful. I think it would help with some consistency among our whole system, other than the little flukes that you have individually for your library.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can go on YouTube and you
Are
can
you
learn how to
talking,
change
Mason?
out it. Oh, I'm sorry, Rhonda.
I
Go
can
ahead.
see how
I
Mason-
was talking.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that we have about a week of training that we do with new hires, and we hire mostly part-time people, of course, but we have a trainer. So we have an official trainer for Scenic. She does Missouri Evergreen 1 training. So she goes over like the basics and like how to use RFIDs, and they get tours and whatnot. And then on their second day of training, they're with me for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, give or take. And that's Missouri Evergreen 2. And I'm more than happy to send this out to anybody that wants it. I just recently updated it with the new rule for minor patrons, but we go over like patron registration. And what I do is they sit at a table, they have everything in front of them, and then I go through it on the live server. So they can see in real time how to register a patron, all the weird things that might happen. We go over reciprocal borrowing, libraries and stuff like that. And we have like example patrons that will check items out too, and then I'll have them renew the items or check out a UPI, so that they're getting, we like when people can actually like click and do things. It's muscle memory instead of just being shown something. We
Right.
think that works better here, at least for our staff, because they're only here sometimes 15 hours a week. So that first training is incredibly important.
Mhm.
But
Does
I can
anyone-
definitely send this out, so if anyone wants it.
Does anybody know if Equinox offers this to any other big statewide consortia? That they have a canned training that they offer for CERC?
If you go on YouTube and go on YouTube and search Evergreen, like circulation procedure, you do find some. I found some that are not a Missouri Evergreen library. It's an Evergreen in Rhode Island or whatever. I don't know what state it was, but there are some out there. So somebody's created something. And they
There
were pretty good, but
there are some somewhere, and because I've seen it, it's like, okay, go see this short video on how to do this. So what I need to do is go look for where that information is, and then I'll send it out on the listserv. I make no claim for how good it is, but it is through through Equinox, I believe. So I can do that. It may not be this week. It might be next week before I get to that. Part of the reason that I'm asking this is I am in the process of redoing the onboarding process, because in the past, it's been, we need this person, let's get them trained as fast as we can. And I feel like we're doing a disservice to our staff and also to Missouri Evergreen with not actually taking the time to go through all the steps before we just throw you into the shark tank, so to speak. And especially if you're training somebody during summer library program, oh my gosh, the number of people, I mean, you do get lots of reps, I would say that, but the pace is so crazy that it's doing a disservice. So
this training that Lena's doing it was 3 days. It was 3 CERC meetings. And if I had had that training, it would have changed everything about how it happened here in Neosho. She's got it figured out, and that she's got a agenda for each day. And I mean, I like any training would normally be, but this was so specific, and it was so neutral. Like she mentioned, I forget who mentioned a second ago, maybe it was Macy, about RFID, and I'm like, okay, well, we don't do that, so I don't even want that mentioned in my training. You said, I mean, I'm not putting that down at all, but the way she's doing it, she knows Sarcoxy, and so she's training to them. But her outline would be a great place to start. How the order and the agenda that she's had each day has been, I have learned so much, really, I've got 4 pages of just stuff I learned from those trainings. So
And
I
who
would
is it
definitely
that's
start
doing
with
the
her.
training?
Sorry?
And who is it that's doing the training?
Lena Hernandez. She's with the Equinox.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see, I would think they would have a canned version of that for remote, for places where they can't go, or for refresher. I would
Right.
like to hope
Well,
that
you
they
can,
already
like,
have that somewhere.
I had them send me all the links, the recorded trainings. So I have them.
Oh,
So I don't know why they couldn't send that to everybody that wanted it.
yeah, because I would love to have that. So
Yeah.
maybe that's just a question for Equinox. It's like, is there a reason why we can't all have this?
Right. Yeah.
I think the reason why we can't all have that is Equinox would like to charge us all to retrain us when it's needed.
exactly.
Yeah, I figured that
That's
was the
probably
case.
true. That's probably true. Isn't it? Always comes down to money, doesn't it?
Well, that and time and
Time
money.
and money. But it's done, so nobody else has to do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, interesting. It's given us some things to do some research on. And Macy, if you do not mind sharing in the CERC listserv, you might want to hit, I don't know, should she hit the Missouri, the regular general membership one too? Yes, no, maybe?
I don't think it hurts.
Okay, so if you could maybe send that out to both of those listservs, then some of us might get it twice, but better twice than not at all.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. You guys can tweak these. So some things are going to be specific to us, of course. There's wording in there like, we're so glad that you joined Scenic,
Yeah.
So like, of course you can tweak all of that. And then there's like some things with bills and whatnot and expiration dates. So, but you guys can make those changes as needed. So, but yes, I can definitely send that out to everybody. And you guys can thank Diane for that. Of course, she did that all. So
Yeah, she sent that to me. That was a lifesaver. I wouldn't have gotten through it without
yeah,
that. so.
yep.
Okay, does anybody else have something to share?
I've started testing my inventory skills.
She's done what? I couldn't hear it.
The inventory.
And how's that going?
Well, it's going good. I had Ron's expert handout that he provided at different presentations. So so that was really helpful, and it's different. It's a different situation than what we've done in the past, but I mean, it worked good. We're just working on trying to get equipment to work, because before we had used like mini iPads and Bluetooth scanners, and it doesn't look like that's going to work this time. We may have to go to full-size laptops and the full-size scanner. So but we're working at that. So
Wow,
it's
it's a big
it's
jump.
interesting.
Mm.
And I don't know how often other people do inventory, or we've been with Evergreen for a year, so we wanted to, we did one before we migrated, and then we've decided, probably start in the fall, full on, but I've just been testing different sections to see if it's gonna work okay, and looks like it works pretty good, so.
Well, how often does most of you do inventory?
Do you do inventory?
We haven't done it since we joined Evergreen, honestly.
We did one when we were closed for COVID.
Yeah.
In a perfect
probably-
world, we have a rotation where basically every section gets done like every 2 or 3 years. We'd love to do it yearly, but right now we're supposedly gonna do each section at least once every 3 years. That's probably.
We
I
run
do mine
show.
sometimes when I weed, and I do small sections as I'm weeding, so I don't usually use like an electronic version. I usually have it in paper as I weed.
Mhm.
We moved to RFID 3 or 4, oh gosh, I can't even remember, 3 years ago. We have 2 wands that we share among the 9 MLC libraries. Some of them are more interested in doing inventories than others, so we're doing our best, is what I will say.
I know we just started doing our first one in, I will generously say, several years. I'm not exactly sure when the last one got done, but we're in the middle of ours now and it's pretty exciting.
As if there's nothing else for us to do.
Can I just say that conversation made me feel way less bad about how our perfect world is not working? So thank you guys. You just made my Tuesday.
Absolutely same. I was kind of embarrassed, but no, this is a safe space. I like it.
Well, is it more circulation, people that do it versus other, because I'm on the tech serve end, but yet I've always done the inventory, so I didn't even do the reporting and stuff, so I kind of do all of those things. So I didn't know if it's really generated through the CERC, or somebody manage it. I like to manage it, but a lot of CERC people help with it too, so I didn't know about other people's process. And I know there's staffing issues for everybody. You don't have the, number of people to do it, so, or part-time, and there's other constraints there, so I'm sure it's different for everyone.
Here at our branch, we kind of divide it up by department. So each department is responsible for different shelving locations. And we go from there.
Okay, I'm just gonna say one more thing, and then unless anybody has some kind of burning issue, we're gonna call it a day. This is your first reminder of the year that by the end of the year, the purging project is coming up again. It's a yearly thing. Yes. So, if you don't want to be down to the end of December in a rush, trying to get all of this done, thinking about it now, figuring out the parameters of what you want to do, getting started on it this is just your first reminder. We'll hit it again as we get closer, and it will be brought up in the membership meetings, but the year is half gone. I don't know where it went, but there you are. It's half gone. And so that's just my little reminder. So
And if I could add, Rhonda,
yeah, sure.
If you are not the person who handles the yearly statistical report for your library, you might want to give your director a heads up about the Purge project, because when we do that statistical report in November, we will have to explain why there was such a huge drop in patrons. You know, I know with my library, we probably lost 10 to 20% of ours through the Purge. So your director, whoever fills out that report, will have to explain that away to the state and feds.
Good to know. I don't do that. And so thanks, Ron. Okay. I can't believe we've been almost a whole hour, but I feel like there were some, and I was kind of actually thinking, maybe we won't meet in June. It's like, oh, no, there's more things to talk about than I thought. So anyway, have a wonderful day. Thank you for hanging as long as you did. I will do some looking on things, and Macy, if you'll send that out, that would be great. So have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Bye.